Previously, a supernatural event sent Napoleon and the Grandee Armee from 1805 into the year 51 BC. The French soon learned from a druidic priest that the only way they could return back to their original time was to kill Julius Caesar. They allied with several Gallic tribes and obliterated a Roman army led by Titus Labienus. Napoleon freed Labienus, sending him to Rome to open negotiations with the Senate, hoping to form an alliance against Caesar. Meanwhile, Caesar and his legions marched back into Gaul to take on this new threat. Pompey, upon hearing of Napoleon's offer from Labienus, immediately began raising legions to attack Cisalpine Gaul. The Senate, emboldened by Napoleon's appearance, declared Caesar an enemy of the state, tasking Pompey with saving the Republic. Caesar realized he now had to fight a war on two fronts. He dispatched Mark Antony, commanding one Roman legion, to march on Rome. Antony soon crossed the Rubicon, rapidly advancing through Italy. Pompey and the Senate were forced to abandon Rome and flee to Brundisium. Napoleon was swiftly marching south, with the goal of occupying all of Gaul and defeating Caesar in one final blow. The only problem: the Grandee Armee was dangerously short on supplies. They only had enough ammunition, clothing, and spare parts to remain an operational force for a few weeks. They scavenged the countryside for as much supplies as possible, similar to how they foraged back in their own time. However, ancient Gaul did not have nearly as many people or resources as 19th century Europe, and the French could only satisfy a fraction of their needs by plundering every village and warehouse in sight. Many Gauls, especially in the center and south, began turning against the French, sending their warriors to join Caesar. The French soon faced a growing guerrilla war as the Gauls began attacking their scouts and foraging parties. Nevertheless, Napoleon marched onwards. He knew he was likely facing a disaster if he did not kill Caesar soon. Caesar was still very much unaware of the nature of the army he was facing. He had no idea about the supply problems faced by the French, and only heard rumors about the guns and cannons he was going to come up against. However, he did know that the French were marching towards him very fast, indicating they wanted a battle. Caesar established his army in defensive position at Gergovia, much like Vercingetorix did years ago. He had little hope of victory, instead seeing this battle as testing the waters, seeing what the French were capable of, before retreating with his army intact, and coming up with a better plan to fight back in the future. Napoleon recognized the significance of Caesar fortifying his position at Gergovia. He sent marshals Davout and Murat to make sure that every possible path around the Gallic town was surrounded. Napoleon wasted no time, ordering his artillery to immediately start firing at the town's walls. Marshal Bernadotte and his men were to storm the town as soon as the walls came down. Caesar watched with a mix of respect, fear, and admiration as the French cannons began pounding Gergovia. He quickly realized the danger he was in. He ordered some of his forces to launch a sortie, hoping they could somehow disrupt the artillery. However, just as the battle began, both sides heard the sky roar above them. It sounded almost like a dragon had just flown over them. It was the US military. American forces landed at the scene of the battle. They briefly skirmished with both the French and Romans, before taking all the French and Roman soldiers prisoner. Napoleon and Caesar were taken on board a helicopter and brought to the USS William Foster, an aircraft carrier currently stationed at the Greek colony of Massilia. They were brought before Rear Admiral Mark Milley, the commander of Carrier Strike Group 8. Milley briefed Napoleon and Caesar on the situation. He explained how his army came from the far future, the year 2023, but from a completely different universe. In their universe, in 1932, President Hoover won re-election after Huey Long ran third party, splitting the Democratic vote. The Great Depression then dramatically worsened, leading to a communist revolution in the United States of America. William Foster then emerged as the premier of the new Communist States of America, with Chicago as its capital. Foster sought to export the American Communist Revolution, annexing Canada, while supporting left-wing revolutions across Latin America. Communist America then allied with the Soviet Union in World War II, giving the Soviets the material needed to conquer Europe from the Nazis. At the same time, Foster took a hardline stance against Japan's invasion of China, preemptively striking Japan to relieve the beleaguered Chinese forces. After the war, Communist America and the Soviet Union launched a massive war against Britain, easily occupying the remnants of the British Empire. By 1955, the tripartite Communist alliance of China, America, and the Soviet Union had succeeded in conquering the world. However, a new global power struggle emerged as the autocratic rulers of the Soviet Union sought to establish themselves as leaders of this new communist world. The communist parties in America and China resisted, leading to a thermonuclear war in 1962. All of Europe and Asia was annihilated in the ensuing nuclear holocaust. Communist America occupied the ruins of the old world, building a new world order from the ashes. With the entire world's resources under the control of one power, technology advanced at a rate never seen before. By the 2000s, a secret program developed at Area 51 allowed communist American agents to begin exploring the multiverse. The communist American Revolution began to spread to countless alternate timelines. However, they soon found out they were not the only ones spreading throughout the multiverse. There was another alternate version of America, one from a universe which was a dark mirror to the communist America universe. It was known mostly by its nickname, the ultra-capitalist America universe. In this universe, Teddy Roosevelt never becomes president, the progressive era never happens, and the Gilded Age in America continues on indefinitely. No antitrust regulations are ever put on the billionaire Gilded Age robber barons and their corporations. Standard Oil is never broken up. Before long, Standard Oil and many other American companies become far richer and more powerful than the government itself, and a council of oligarchs takes over effective governance of the country. The Rockefellers, Carnegies, and Vanderbilts emerge as a new American aristocracy. The oligarchs are further rejuvenated by the emergence of tech billionaires in the late 90s and early 2000s. They merge with their counterparts in Europe and China to form a world government. All regulations on research and development, including those on human trials, are eliminated. Thanks to this, Elon Musk is able to develop his Neuralink at a rapid pace, despite killing tens of thousands of human test subjects. By 2020, all humans connect their brains to the internet. Elon Musk soon ascends to the presidency of the Global Economic Council of Oligarchs, leading the world into the beginnings of a cyberpunk dystopia. With his control of Neuralink, Elon was able to centralize power in a new way never seen before. Many other oligarchs feared he would take them out and become an unstoppable dictator. Elon's main competitors in the Global Economic Council of Oligarchs, Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, formed an alliance and started developing multiversal travel as a way to acquire new technologies that could hopefully help them undermine President Elon's regime. Private armies under the banners of Amazon and Meta soon began occupying as many parallel universes as possible. Before long, they came into conflict with the communist Americans. Amazon and Meta were now fighting a war for control of the multiverse against communist America. Communist American scientists had long theorized time travel could be the way to win the war for the multiverse. If they could master the technology, then go to the ultra-capitalist universe and travel back in time, they could theoretically alter a universe's course of history, turning them towards communism while their technology was too weak to resist. It was only theoretical, until a sudden time rift erupted in an alternate universe where Napoleon was supposed to defeat Britain, a universe codenamed FRA 1805. The communists immediately dispatched an interdimensional task force led by Mark Milley, who was a rear admiral in the communist universe who commanded Carrier Strike Group 8, and a team of scientists led by Noam Chomsky. Their mission was to get to the bottom of what caused the time rift, with the hopes that this would finally allow them to learn time travel and control the multiverse. They had to do all this before the ultra-capitalists inevitably learned of the time rift and sent their own forces. After explaining all of that, Milley then brought in Noam Chomsky, who asked Napoleon how he traveled back in time. Napoleon explained that it was because of a magical spell cast by a druidic priest. Without any hesitation, Chomsky then revealed he was actually an ultra-capitalist sleeper agent working for Zuckerberg. He had killed and replaced Communist Universe Chomsky years ago. His fellow double agents then revealed themselves, shooting all the actual communists in the room. Chomsky and his men then freed all the French and Roman prisoners on the ship, giving them guns and instructing them to wreak havoc. Chomsky then took Caesar, Napoleon, and many of their men to the ship's interdimensional gate, which the communist task force used to travel between universes. Chomsky entered the coordinates for a universe controlled by Meta, instructing all the Frenchmen and Romans to quickly travel through the portal before the communists got wind of what was happening. They all traveled through the portal, finding themselves in the midst of what looked to be the ruins of ancient Rome. Chomsky soon realized that the time rift had probably messed up his calculations. They were all now in a completely different universe and time than he expected. Several units of Eastern Roman horsemen and spearmen then surrounded the time travelers. They spoke a crude but recognizable form of Latin and Greek, which Caesar was able to communicate in. The Eastern Romans were flabbergasted by the appearance of men wearing legionary uniforms that had been phased out centuries ago. They brought Napoleon, Caesar, and Chomsky to their leader, General Belisarius. It quickly became apparent that the year was now 537 AD, during the Gothic siege of Rome and Emperor Justinian's wars to restore the Western Roman Empire. Meanwhile, the Communist American Task Force, still in the year 51 BC in the FRA 1805 universe, soon realized what had happened. Millie was able to be saved from his bullet wounds at the fleet's hospital ship. He ordered his task force to occupy both Rome and Gaul, and to detain every druidic priest they could find. Luckily, Chomsky had not covered his tracks when using the interdimensional gate, and the coordinates of the universe he traveled to were recovered. Millie knew that there would be no interdimensional gate in that universe, so Chomsky and his men would be stuck until the ultra-capitalists could send a rescue force. Millie dispatched a brigade of helicopters to travel through the interdimensional gate, and 2 ERE-537.